Have you ever walked away from a conversation and thought, why did they talk to me like that? It's a feeling we all know, that sting of being ignored, dismissed, or outright disrespected. But what if I told you the disrespect you're getting is something you're unconsciously allowing? In this video, we're going deep, not only into why people treat you the way they do, but how to flip the power back in your favor without raising your voice or breaking a sweat. When you don't have strong personal boundaries, people can sense it and they respond accordingly. Disrespect doesn't always come in loud, aggressive forms. Sometimes it shows up subtly, people interrupting you mid-sentence, dismissing your opinions, expecting you to always say yes, or not valuing your time. At first, you might excuse it. You might even think, maybe I'm just being too sensitive. But over time, the pattern builds, and it always starts from the same source. You haven't drawn the line. Boundaries are not walls. They're signals. They show others where your self-respect begins. And when those signals are weak or missing, people assume there's no cost to causing you. Why? Because humans are wired to test limits. It's not always malicious. It's instinct. In any social interaction, people are constantly calibrating, trying to understand where the power lies, where the strength is, where the leadership stands. If you show up with a smile, agree to everything, tolerate bad behavior, and avoid confrontation, what you're really doing is teaching them that your comfort doesn't matter. You're silently telling them, it's okay to treat me like this. This is why being nice all the time can backfire. Niceness without boundaries isn't kindness, it's self-betrayal. And people feel it. They feel the energy of someone who's afraid to say no, who's desperate to keep the peace, who values approval over dignity. And when that's the case, respect leaves the room. But here's the truth most people don't want to hear. People treat you how you treat you. If you don't honor your own limits, no one else will. If you don't value your own time, people won't either. If you don't speak up for yourself, you become the easy target, not because people are evil, but because power dynamics are always at play. And silence is rarely read as strength. It's read as surrender. The shift happens when you start to say, that's not okay with me. When you stop explaining your boundaries and start enforcing them. When you let people feel the discomfort of your no without softening it. That's when the game changes. Not because you became aggressive. Not because you became rude. But because you started to value yourself. And when that happens, people notice. They adjust. They respect. Respect isn't something you chase. It's something you command by the way you carry yourself and the invisible line you draw that says, I don't tolerate anything less. Seeking approval might seem harmless, even noble. You want to be liked, accepted, and validated. That's human. But when approval becomes your emotional currency, you start paying a steep price. Your power, constantly trying to please others, chips away at your presence. It softens your edge. It tells people, your opinion of me matters more than my opinion of myself. And whether they realize it consciously or not, they sense the imbalance and they begin to devalue you. When you live for approval, you start editing yourself. You laugh when something isn't funny. You agree when you disagree. You hesitate to say what you really think. Over time, people stop listening to you not because they're rude, but because you've trained them that your voice doesn't hold weight. You've shown them you're bent to fit their comfort. And in doing that, you become forgettable. Approval seeking dilutes your essence. It strips away your authenticity. And without authenticity, there's no gravity. Nothing for others to truly respect. People are drawn to those who stand firm in who they are even if they don't always agree with them. Why? Because that kind of self-assurance is rare. It's magnetic. It signals strength. But when you need others to like you before you can like yourself, you hand them the steering wheel. You let their reactions determine your worth. That's a dangerous game because people are fickle. Their approval can be given one moment and taken the next. And when you're addicted to it, you're always at their mercy. The worst part, the more you chase approval, the less you get it. People sense desperation, even if you mask it well. They sense when someone is performing instead of being. And instead of admiration, it breeds discomfort or worse, contempt. Because deep down, people respect those who respect themselves. And if you're constantly trying to earn their favor, it signals that you don't think you're enough without it. The flip begins when you let go of the need to be liked. Not in a reckless or cruel way, but with quiet certainty. You speak honestly even when it's uncomfortable. You let people disagree with you, and you don't shrink. You stop chasing and start choosing. You choose where your energy goes. You choose who deserves your time. And in that shift, you become someone others want to respect, not because you begged for it, but because you showed that you don't need it to stand tall. When your self-image is inconsistent, people don't know what to make of you, so they test you, challenge you, or ignore you. That confusion creates an opening for disrespect. One moment you present yourself as confident and assertive, the next you're passive, uncertain, or overly agreeable. That kind of contradiction sends mixed signals. It tells people that the version of you they're seeing isn't stable, it can be pushed, altered, or manipulated. Humans respond to consistency. We're wired to look for patterns, especially in social dynamics. When someone consistently shows up with self-respect, they naturally command respect from others. But if your energy wavers, if you say you value yourself, but your actions scream insecurity, people won't take you seriously. They follow what you do, not what you say about yourself. So when your self-image changes based on who you are around or how much approval you're getting, you lose credibility. And once that credibility cracks, respect begins to erode. The danger of an unstable self-image is that it makes you reactive. You start performing for acceptance rather than living from your core. You over-explain your decisions, you apologize for your opinions, you dress, talk, or act in ways that feel forced, all in an attempt to fit a mold. But every time you do that, you send out a quiet message. I'm not sure who I really am, so I'll let you decide for me. That's when people start overstepping, questioning your worth, and seeing you as someone they can mold to their advantage. True confidence is not loud. And it's not perfect. It's simply stable. It's rooted in knowing who you are and refusing to drift every time the wind blows. When your self-image is clear, others adjust their behavior to match your standard. They know what to expect. And more importantly, they know what won't be tolerated. That kind of presence sets the tone. You don't have to demand respect, you become the kind of person people instinctively respect. If you want others to treat you with consistency and respect, you have to give that to yourself first. That means aligning your actions with your values, showing up as the same person whether people are watching or not, and refusing to betray your identity for temporary approval. The goal isn't to be liked by everyone, is to be solid enough that people can feel your self-respect before you say a word. That's what earns long-term respect, not image, but integrity. Respect starts from within. People often search for external validation, thinking that if they act a certain way, dress a certain way, or say the right things, others will treat them better. But that's backward. The truth is, people mirror how you treat yourself. If you walk into a room with quiet certainty, hold your boundaries, and act like your time, energy, and presence matter, others notice. And they respond. The first step in flipping the power dynamic isn't to demand respect from others, but to build it internally. Self-respect is the foundation of personal power. When you truly respect yourself, you stop tolerating the small, subtle forms of disrespect that most people overlook. You no longer laugh at jokes that belittle you, accept half-hearted apologies, or give endless chances to people who cross your lines. You start showing up with an energy that says, I'm not here to be tested. I know who I am. And you stop explaining yourself to people who aren't even listening. That's not arrogance, it's clarity. It's the kind of energy that makes people second guess before they speak to you a certain way. Self-respect changes the way you move through the world. It sharpens your posture, your tone, your eye contact. You no longer need to prove anything because you're not chasing external approval. You've already approved of yourself. That's where the real shift happens. Because most disrespect doesn't start with loud insults, it starts with subtle dismissals, with people seeing you as someone who can be overlooked. But when your self-image is solid, you naturally command more space, not because you're louder, but because your presence carries weight. This transformation doesn't require you to become someone you're not. It requires you to stop shrinking. To stop minimizing yourself for the comfort of others. When you start treating your thoughts, time, and energy as valuable, others learn to do the same. That's the essence of flipping the power. You go from seeking worth externally to radiating it internally. And once that happens, people either rise to meet you or fall away because they can't access you the same way anymore. Power isn't about dominance. It's about direction. When you carry self-respect, you set the direction of how others treat you. You no longer react to every little slight because you know your value isn't tied to their opinion. You stop managing their behavior and start mastering your own. And in that shift, you stop chasing respect and start embodying it. In every interaction, there's an unspoken frame, a psychological lens that determines who holds the power. That frame can be shaped by tone, body language, timing, and intent. Most people don't realize it, but the person who controls the frame controls the respect. If you walk into a room unsure of yourself, waiting to see how others will treat you before deciding how to act, you've already lost the frame. You've placed your power in their hands. But if you set the tone from the start with calm confidence and emotional clarity, you become the anchor others adjust to. Controlling the frame doesn't mean dominating people. It means choosing how you interpret and respond to situations and refusing to let others define that reality for you. For example, if someone tries to insult you or make a passive-aggressive comment, you don't react emotionally. You pause. You hold eye contact. You let the silence stretch. That alone can flip the power dynamic. Why? Because you're not playing their game. You're staying in your frame, one of grounded strength. That's intimidating in the best way because it shows you won't be easily shaken. Most people lose power not because they're weak, but because they hand over the frame too quickly. They get defensive when challenged, nervous when questioned, or overly apologetic when setting boundaries. All of this tells the other person, you have more control over my emotional state than I do. And once that belief is established, respect begins to fade. But when you maintain composure, when you speak with intention and move with purpose, you start to control the emotional atmosphere around you. People feel it. They may not know exactly why, but they adjust their tone, their posture, their words, because you've silently set the standard. The key is to stop reacting and start leading. leading with presence, leading with poise. You don't need to argue or prove yourself. In fact, the more you try to convince others of your worth, the less they feel it. Real authority isn't explained, it's felt. And it's felt strongest in those who can hold their frame under pressure. That's the difference between someone who commands respect and someone who chases it. You flip the power when you become unshakable. When you don't let small minds drag you into their chaos. When you stop giving people the script to control your emotions. Your frame becomes your fortress not because it's rigid, but because it's rooted. And once you master that, people don't just respect you, they start to follow your lead. Power isn't something you beg for, shout about, or try to force. Real power, the kind that commands respect without a word, is projected. It's an internal presence that radiates outward. You can feel it in someone before they even speak. It's in their posture, their stillness, the way they take up space without needing permission. It's not about being loud or aggressive. It's about being rooted in who you are. When you project self-assurance, people instinctively adjust. They sense there's something in you that can't be pushed, and that alone sets boundaries without you saying a word. One of the biggest misconceptions is that respect is earned through constant action by proving yourself over and over again. But more often than not, it's the absence of neediness that earns respect. When you don't need validation to feel whole, when you don't flinch under pressure, when you can walk away from anything that disrespects you, that's power. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you're showing, with every move, that you belong to yourself. People pay attention to what you're communicating silently. Your energy introduces you before your words do. If you walk into a room anxious, slouched, hesitant, people feel it. And whether they realize it consciously or not, they interpret it as uncertainty, which weakens your presence. But if you move with intention, make eye contact, speak slowly, and don't over-explain yourself, you create gravity. A supple pull that makes others pause before they speak to you casually or dismissively. You're signaling, I know who I am, and I don't need your validation to confirm it. This is why silence is powerful. Stillness is powerful. A person who can sit in silence without rushing to fill the space often has more control than the one who speaks the most. Power isn't in the noise, it's in the restraint. The ability to let someone else talk themselves in circles while you listen, calm and composed, is one of the most powerful positions you can take. To project power, you don't need to change your personality. You don't need to become cold or fake confidence. You simply need to stop outsourcing your self-worth. When you start treating your own time, words, and attention as valuable, people respond in kind. The goal isn't to intimidate, it's to radiate presence so strong, respect becomes the natural response. Because in the end, you don't have to force people to respect you. You just have to show them you respect yourself and let that energy do the talking. Respect isn't given to the loudest voice or the most agreeable face, it's given to the one who knows their value and lives it unapologetically. If people are disrespecting you, it's often a reflection of the signals you're sending, consciously or not. But the power to change that doesn't come from demanding better treatment. It comes from embodying it first. When you stop tolerating disrespect from yourself, the world begins to follow your lead. You don't need to fight for respect. You need to become the kind of person who naturally attracts it through boundaries, consistency, calm authority, and unwavering self-respect. Flip the power not by trying to control others,